Namaste. Today I'll be talking about one of the very famous poems of Rabindranath Tagore. At the very outset, I would like to recite the poem and then we'll go into examining its particulars from a critical point of view. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms to its perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake. Having heard the poem, let us now examine each of these lines from a critical point of view. Let's take the very first line, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Here the poet is talking about a state of fearlessness, a state of mental fearlessness. It's only when we have mental fearlessness that we would be able to raise and hold our heads high. So the concept is one of a mind which is fearless, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. The position of the head also is suggestive of a high degree of self-confidence. Only those who tread on the path of goodness and godliness, all those who tread on the path of truth, they alone are in a position to hold their head high. With this state of fearlessness, at a mental level, one would be able to hold one's head high in the society, in the country, for the nation. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free. The poet is talking of a situation. The poet is talking of an environment wherein there is no commodification of knowledge. Knowledge flows. The more one learns, there is still more to be learnt. That is what Tennyson also said in one of his very, very famous poems, Ulysses. If we take stock of the Indian tradition, there was the Gurukul tradition that we had here, and always at the center, the centrifugal and the centripetal point, we had Goddess Saraswati. With the passage of time, Goddess Saraswati was substituted by Goddess Lakshmi. And now there is knowledge which is being bartered, as if knowledge can be purchased and knowledge can be sold. Pay and receive, be paid and give. That is the mantra. And therefore Tagore very correctly says that true knowledge is always transcendental in character. True knowledge engages in a free flow, and that neither the giver nor the receiver engages in any commodity, engages in any form of economical engagement. Where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where the world has not been broken up. Having seen the concept of fearlessness, the freedom of knowledge, we are talking of a state of mind that is not divided. The mental spaces that we have, all these mental spaces needs to be united, and that there has to be no division which is permissible. Where the mind is led, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. The concept is one of outlook. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. That is what our seers and sages said. They never said Bharat samasta sukhino bhavantu or Gujarat samasta sukhino bhavantu. It is always, the perspective was one of totality, of embracing the entire cosmos, the entire universe, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth. And this is something that is so very poignant. If one has tread on the path of goodness and godliness, if one has a high state of confidence, when one practices or pursues knowledge or strives for knowledge, which is not keeping the utilitarian perspective in mind, and that when one's mind is free of all forms of borders, words would come from the depth, words would come out from the depth of the heart, where words come out from the depth of the heart, where tireless striving stretches his arms to its perfection. We are again talking of a situation, we are talking of a moment, we are talking of an ideology that believes in karma siddhant, where tireless striving, there is no rest, to go on, to strive, to seek, to find, and never to yield. This is again something that Tennyson spoke about. Vivekananda similarly said, change of work is rest. We're tireless. The pursuit of perfection is a continuous, ongoing process, and that one should never stop. Where tireless striving stretches his arms to his perfection. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert's end of dead habit. Reason, has to be very clear. We need to have a very clear vision, a very clear idea, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert's end of dead habit. The poet here is also talking of orthodoxy. The poet is talking in terms of having a very narrow outlook towards life. The real outlook is one of continuous engagement. Habits need to be modified. Dead habits die hard, as they say. But then if these dead habits, if these dreary habits, if they become roadblocks in our pursuit of knowledge, they have to be done away with. Engaging ourselves with reason. The clarity of thought, crystal clear, with a clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, and then comes up the concept of total surrender. To know that everything in this cosmos, to know that everything in this world moves by the will of God. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. To surrender. There is the sense of surrender. Atma nivedanam, where the mind, to know that we are not the doer, we are just the agents. We are just the agents. God has given us the task of executing. But then everything in this world is decided by the will of God, where the mind is led forward by thee into everlasting thought and action. There is this broadening of the mind. The horizons of the mind keep on moving and moving and moving. There is no end. There is no point of culmination. We go on every day, every moment. Where tireless striving stretches his arms to its perfection. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert's end of dead habit. Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake. This is the dream. This is the utopia. This is the Ram Rajya that was envisioned by our sages and seers, by our prophetic masters, into that heaven of freedom. True freedom. True freedom is an engagement with the self, a kind of engagement that knows that you are not the doer. An engagement that knows and understands that it is God who determines everything. It is God who decides. It is God who executes. It is from these variety of perspectives, these are the concepts, these are the ideologies which are inherent in this poem. Thank you very much for giving a listening ear. Thank you. Jai Hind.